right, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We hope that everybody is perhaps having lunch and learning while you're all joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. It looks like there's a few more people trying to connect, so maybe we just give one more minute to let everyone in. We're really excited to have everyone here. Let's see here. All right, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Happy Tuesday. I can't believe that we're already in the month of August. Where has the time gone? It's been kind of a I would say much better year, but also still very different than other years. So I hope everyone is having an amazing week and hopefully you know, getting ready for some exciting things as this week goes along. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Elaine Rodriguez, and I'm the Technical Assistance Director for the LEEAF program. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn Dinero talk. So today we're going to talk dinero, and who doesn't like to talk about dinero? So really briefly, I just want to give you a little bit of background on what we're going to be doing today. We're going to talk about the LEEAF Accelerator program for small businesses as our applications are open. We're also going to be, we have an amazing speaker talking to us about how to tell your business story to access resources and to build your credit capacity. So really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. And finally, we're also going to have a panel from a lot of our community partners that are joining us today about the lending options and resources that are available for you as business owners here in LA. So we're really excited to have everyone here with us today, all of the panelists. Thank you for joining us. And, you know, really excited to have everyone here. In case you see some of us in the chat and whatnot, you can meet the LEEAF team. So again, my name is Elaine. I'm the Technical Assistance Director for the LEEAF program. If you see Dr. Marla or Dr. Dimitri Seals in the chat or in some of your windows, they're actually our lead faculty members for our program. Anaid, who I know she may or may not be joining us, but she's our program manager. So if you're part of our newsletters or part of any of our communications, she's usually the one that sends you all those emails filled with lots of great information and lots of resources. And then finally, and definitely a person that you're going to get to know a little bit more in a little bit, Tomas Duran, who's our Capital Access Lead, joining us from our partnership at CHC Community Health Councils. Really briefly, I just want to tell you a little bit about our partnership and how you know, LEEAF is kind of designed. So LEEAF is a partnership between Cal State LA, CHC Community Health Councils, and the LA SBDC network. We have come about through a generous donation and grant funding from Wells Fargo. So thank you to our funders and sponsors out there. But essentially our partnership, Cal State LA is our host institution. We're doing a lot of research and evaluation through Cal State LA, and they're obviously providing us with a lot of our work with our student fellowships. And I'll talk a little bit about how that is structured in a minute. CHC, Community Health Councils, Leading for Equity. They're access to capital specialists. They do a lot of community work, and they've done a lot of policy and advocacy work for small businesses. And again, Tomas is going to share a little bit more about what CHC does in the space that they're in and how they've kind of come about to doing some of this work with us. And finally, the LA SBDC network is really providing us support with technical assistance, some training experience, and also providing a lot of the one-on-one advisors. They're one of the most robust technical assistance programs here in the LA area. They have over 100 advisors that can, you know, provide technical assistance in all kinds of fields and backgrounds, industries, in different things. So really excited to have them all as partners. So a little bit about our program. So 3 main components. We have, for those of you that don't know about LEEAF, because it is a brand new program, we have a student fellowship program. That's about roughly 60 fellows, 60 student fellows. We're going to be going through 4 months of applied training, and that training actually started last week. There's going to be a lot of mentorship and networking opportunities for the student fellows to really learn more about, you know, opportunities and different career opportunities and career building opportunities for them as they're exiting Cal State LA. We're working on building some portfolios so that they can learn and really showcase, right, all of their talents and skill sets. And I think some of the fellows are actually in here today. So, you know, if you, for those of you that are joining us and that are fellows, don't be shy, raise your hand, put an emoji up so they know who you are. And we're also going to be, all the fellowship is actually going to be leading into a paid internship in January. So January through July, they'll be doing an internship with some of our businesses that are part of our accelerator. So the second component of our program, we have a business accelerator, which is what we're recruiting for right now. We're going to be working with 60 business leaders, 60 BIPOC women business owners. Again, they're also going to be going through 4 months of applied training, technical, tangible skills to level up their business, right? We're really meeting them where they are. So no industry, no minimum requirements. It's just really having a business, and that hunger to grow is what we're looking for. They're going to be getting access to one-on-one advising from our 150 experts through our SPDC network. They're going to get tailored access to capital support through our partnership with CHC and Tomas's expertise in access to capital. And obviously all of our community partners are actually joining us today, right? This is really a community effort because we know it takes a village to do this and to grow our small businesses. And then they're going to have access to this paid intern, right, that are part of the fellowship in January. So we're really excited about that, about the accelerator. And then finally, we're also doing community at large work, right? So a lot of it is programs and panels like today, bringing resources to our community and letting them know what their options are for different things. I think a lot of the times as business owners, you know, they get bogged down with the work, the everyday work. And so they don't know what's out there and what's there to help. In addition to the 60 companies that we're going to be working with through the accelerator, we're also going to be supporting other businesses that are going to be joining us, right? And we're going to be able to give them one-on-one advising as well. Starting in October, we'll start to do some specialized skill building boot camps, as well as some industry specific trainings. And more than anything, we really want to make sure that there's an ability to have networking opportunities and community building opportunities to be able to support each other as business owners and community leaders. Above everything, we are rooted in economic justice and looking to develop and grow and empower the next generation of leaders and the next generation of CEOs that are really supporting our communities. And we're going to be doing that through some technical training, right, to really support their business ventures and their different idea generation. So we're really excited to see where this program is going to move forward. And again, we could not do this without our partners, without our funders. So thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. All right, just a few important deadlines and links. Our applications for Accelerator is open. So if you know a business, or if you are a business and you are like thinking about applying and you're not sure, definitely check out our website. I'll drop all the links in the chat in a minute so that you guys can check out our website. Our application should take no more than 30 minutes. I think the hardest question is, what do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see your business? So dream big, because we are here to support those really big dreams. You can also check out our Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. I think we've been really showcasing a lot of the work that we're going to be doing. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach us at leaf@calcitla.edu. We're here to answer questions. We have a whole team behind this, really supporting all the businesses. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if anybody wants to take a screenshot of this and send it to yourself, so that way you know where to catch us, that'd be great too. But I'll drop all the links in the chat as well. Okay, so now to our program. First, we're going to start with Anna Marie Cruz. And I'll make a quick intro about her. She is the Western Regional Manager for Initiative for Competitive Inner City, ICIC, delivering inner city capital connections and a tuition-free capacity building training for small businesses and under-resourced communities across the entire United States. So she does a lot of great work. She is also an immigrant from the Philippines and is very passionate about the intersection of social impact in business and its application to reduce poverty. So she's definitely a champion of small business and has done a ton of work with small businesses. Her experience includes technical assistance, lending and program management at various different mission-based organizations that level out the playing field for women and BIPOC entrepreneurs. And I think an underlying fact about her is that she's also the founder and chief Elevate Her officer at Entrepreneurship. If you don't know what entrepreneurship is, definitely look it up on Instagram. They're kick-ass group of Filipino entrepreneurs and uses this as a tool for self-determination. So if you're not following them, if you're not on their mailing list, please join them because they are a really kick-ass group. And Anna Marie is always doing a ton of work for the community. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And I'm not going to take up that much time. I know you want me to talk about telling your story and making that relevant to lenders and funders. So I have some stats to share. But first, I want to congratulate you, Elaine, on LEEAF and the launch of this program. It's an amazing program, very much needed in our community and very much needed for the entrepreneurs who are often overlooked. And as we saw during the pandemic, entrepreneurs who were ignored in terms of programming and funding. And I'm very happy to share this platform with a number of my colleagues who are very committed to supporting our entrepreneurs, particularly small businesses, again, in underserved communities and in communities that may be disenfranchised or marginalized. So today I come to you wearing two hats. As Elaine mentioned, I manage a national program in which we connect our businesses, established businesses, to additional resources, executive training, much like a mini MBA on steroids is what we call it. And then we also manage a program called 10,000 Small Businesses, which is funded by Goldman Sachs, really committed to, again, up-leveling our established businesses so that they can continue to create jobs and support the economy thrive. So with that, I do want to share just some impacts around small businesses. So hopefully you can see this. At some point, we think that we're experts on running Zoom, and then there are just times when that doesn't seem to be the case. So in terms of small business impact, small businesses in the country create more than 2/3 of jobs and account for 44% of the US economic activity. So you have a huge impact on the economy. And again, we've seen that especially during the pandemic. And as far as women-owned firms, we account for an economic impact of 3 trillion. I think this is actually a little bit older, so it may be even higher than that. Now, okay. Now, when it comes to capital funding, Dinero, which is what we're here to talk about, this is a real problem. No matter how small or big the business is, capital is just a necessity when it comes to growth and fueling that growth, and also fueling the changes that businesses undergo so that they can reach their goals. However, you can see here that the majority of entrepreneurs, particularly at the startup level, don't have that kind of access. 83% don't access bank loans or venture capital. 65%, in fact, rely on their own savings or their family, sort of the friends and family round that you may hear some people talk about, and close to 10% carry balances on personal credit cards, which I'm sure our panelists will also talk about, and why that can be a challenge when you're putting your business financing needs on your personal credit. So I know today we'll be talking about whether you are fundable. And telling the story is only one part of it. Being fundable is really a process. So for those of you who are hearing this for the first time and are feeling intimidated, don't worry, because it's a process. And what you may know today is going to change from what you know next month, next year, et cetera, as you build your business and as you define what your next goals are going to be. So what I want to stress is building credit, particularly business credit, really starts with building knowledge. Be curious, be interested in learning about what the panel panelists have to say today, and also build those relationships, create the opportunity to actually have your questions answered. Don't just think of those questions, actually build the relationships and ask them of these experts. Because what you'll find is these experts who are bankers, lenders, investors are actually interested in seeing you succeed. They're not here to, make you feel foolish or lacking of knowledge. They're here to support you, but they need to understand what you need. So building that relationship, building that knowledge, and building the curiosity is probably one of the most important things to becoming fundable. But it also means that you have your own responsibility in that process. It means that you have to be able to articulate your goals and your vision for your business. If you're just getting started, think about what your roadmap is. If you have not put anything down yet, that's okay, because actually this program will help you do that, just that. But this is a big component, being able to articulate where you want to go, how you want to get there, and then again, building the relationship so that you can have a partner to help you reach those goals. And then finally, as you become curious and as you ask those questions, understanding how your investor or your lender makes these decisions. And I'm just going to take it back a little bit. If we're talking about your personal friends and family round, if let's say you had to go to mom or dad or brother or sister and ask them for an investment in your business, what is going to lead them to make that decision? How are they going to be compelled? Not to say that that's how lenders outside the family make a decision, but maybe that helps to frame how you're going to tell your story, right? So whoever you're going to, whoever you're pitching to or applying for or applying with, understanding how they make decisions is a key question to answer. And I think to distill this, and I know our panelists will talk a little bit more in detail what these questions should be, I like to just simplify it in this way. What is the what, why, and how? What are you seeking? What do you need? How is it going to be used? So if I say I need $20,000 for my business, I should be prepared to say exactly what it's going for to the penny. So I might say, well, 10,000 of it is going to my new long, I forget the name of it, the cappuccino maker, that machine that costs $10,000 to $15,000. So maybe 10,000 of it goes to that. Another 5,000 goes to hiring my first employee, and that's going to be used for the next 3 months. So those details are really helpful in building confidence in your investor and in your lender on how well you've thought out this plan. And then the final thing is how. How are you going to pay it back? How are you going to guarantee a return? If you ask mom and dad for an investment in the business, they might say, sure, but I want to make money on that investment, because otherwise I would put this money in my savings account and I want you to match that return. So how are you going to get to that point where you're guaranteeing that? Obviously today we have folks who are going to be talking about different forms of debt, but still worth considering what an investment might look like for our early stage businesses. And I mentioned, and as Elaine had, I also wear the hat of an entrepreneur as a startup, and I'm in the same place as you are. I'm also thinking through, how am I going to tell my story well? And I have to tell you that part of that is telling that story as many times as I can to my peers and to my friends and getting their feedback. So in this cohort, I'm very excited for you to have that automatic cohort or your peers that you can actually pitch your ideas to in a safe space. So congratulations. I hope that for those of you who are in this cohort, I hope that you get as much of it as you intended, and that you are curious, and best of luck to you. And for those of you who are considering this program, be sure to apply. I know it's going to be a dynamic cohort. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Elaine.
Thank you, Anna Marie. That was great, and yeah, thank you for for sharing all these great nuggets. I think, like you said, sometimes depending on where we come from, some of these things can be challenging, especially if we're not used to. I know I grew up like, we don't borrow things, right? We don't borrow money. Like, don't no pidas prestado. So it's just one of those things that like you have to kind of get over, and it's part of who we are, right? And so sometimes it's culturally engraved in us, but we're really looking to overcome those challenges. So thank you for sharing that. And as we go through the presentation, Dr. Marla and myself will be dropping in some LEEAF tips as we're hearing some of these great nuggets of information, because I think they're super powerful and they're things we definitely want to remember. So thank you, Anna Marie, for sharing some great tips. Okay, so next I'm going to pass it over to Tomas, who's the Senior Vice President for Economic Resiliency at Community Health Councils and one of our partners in our Access to Capital lead, who will be moderating the panel, and I'll let him introduce our panelists. So Tomas, I'll send it to you.
All right, thank you, Elaine. We're running a little bit behind schedule, so I'm gonna really truncate the introduction part, and we'll get right to the panelists, and the panelists will have a couple minutes to introduce themselves and talk about the loan products, and then we'll get into our question and answers. But before we go to all that, I just want to explain why Community Health Councils is involved in this kind of project. Now, Community Health Councils is a nonprofit in South Los Angeles. It was started in 1992 in response to the civil unrest. And its original mission was creating councils around Los Angeles where people could come together, stakeholders could come and talk and generate solutions for the challenges that they see. Flash forward 30 years, the last council was the original council, CHC, is still operating and is still serving that role, bringing together stakeholders and community partners. Most of our work is in the health policy area. But about 6 years ago, we decided that we needed to get into economic development because we were noticing that there was a disconnect between existing resources that were being applied for the community and the community's ability to access them. I joined the team a little over a year ago to focus on that, to help create those connections between our community in South Los Angeles and those resources like some of our lenders that are on our panel today, in order to improve the health and welfare of the overall South Los Angeles community. I like to say my principal job is growing wealth in South Los Angeles for South Los Angeles. And that's why we're here today. CHC is still a relatively small nonprofit, but where it excels is identifying issues and the partners that are in the stakeholders in the community that are best suited to address those. The programming that we have a Leading for Equity program under which we do agency building for residents, nonprofit capacity building for local nonprofits, and a number of other improvement programs for people in South Los Angeles and beyond. But we do these things in addition with larger partners. And so this whole thing came about us wanting to extend this Leading for Equity brand into a larger project that we weren't necessarily positioned well to do, but CalCLA is. And so the partners that you see on the prior slides, these are experts in their field, way far and beyond the capacity of CHC's little nonprofit to do itself, to create and administer a larger program. And that's why we're here today. Now, my particular skill set actually is capital access. I've been doing it in Los Angeles for about 15 years, mostly with manufacturers. But what I would do is take those hairy deals, the ones that didn't seem to be able to get money because the books were not in order, or because there wasn't sufficient collateral, or because of whatever it was, or most of the time the business owner just wasn't able to tell their story, and figure out the appropriate capital source, how they were going to repay, and what the growth strategy was to make sure that by taking on additional debt or additional funding, it wasn't going to harm the business. And so I'm applying that skill set to our overall program in partnership with CalCLA and the SBDC. And I'm taking the lead on things like this, bringing together the different partners, providing and showing our participants there's a spectrum of capital and for different purposes and for different uses. And just like Ana Maria said, it depends on where you are. This is a process. It's going to take time. Last, one of the things that's been guiding us as we move through this is the uneven or unequal impact on women by not only the pandemic, but before that. And we're seeing that women of color aren't participating as in rates that they should be in the growth of wealth around Los Angeles. And so we're hoping that this program, with its focus on BIPOC women, will be one thing that shows that there's a different approach to be able to have some success there. And without any further ado, I want to introduce our panel. Michelle Cruz from Wells Fargo, a small business banker, who's focused on Southern San Gabriel, the San Gabriel Valley, I'm sure. And she's going to talk to us about Wells Fargo's products and where they fit in that spectrum. Noe Castillo is a loan officer with the business development with CDC Small Business Finance. He has programs targeted at communities like South Los Angeles, and he'll talk about his program and where he fits. And then finally, we have Andrea Avila with an economic development associate with Inclusive Action for the city, and she'll do the same with her particular product. We try to assemble a panel that was going to have different sectors of that spectrum so that you can see what that looks like. It's possible a business may touch every single one over the life of their business, or the business may be ready in advance to go all the way to Wells Fargo, or they may start with Andrea, but we'll see. So without any further ado, Michelle, you want to introduce yourself and take a few minutes to talk about your products and Wells Fargo's role in this space?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Cruz, and I'm based out of El Monte, California, here at Wells Fargo. And I wanted to share that I help business owners from startup to well-established business owners after years of owning their business, as well as medical professionals. We offer at Wells Fargo business checking accounts, savings accounts, and in regards to access to capital, we initially offer a business rewards credit card to get them established for business credit, as well as a business line of credit. So our business line of credit is up to 100,000 for established business owners or more. And for those new business owners, we have an SBA line of credit that offers up to 50,000 for access to capital. And if there's something that we cannot do for them, that's when I refer to partners over at CDFIs, including CDC and Pacific Coast Regional, to name a few.
Sorry, no, I was on mute. No, go ahead.
I thought for a second you were calling my name, but I wanted to make sure. Once again, thank you for the invite. Let's talk about Dinero. Let's make it rain, right? Noe Castillo, loan officer with CDC Small Business Finance. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for the invitation once again. CDC Small Business Finance, basically, we are a nonprofit mission-based lender and also an SBA preferred lender. And our mission is to help businesses at different stages, from those that are starting a brand new concept, a startup business, those that are looking to expand into a new place, maybe those that are trying to ban an existing business or do an acquisition, or even those businesses that are kind of have projects, kind of like Tomas mentioned, maybe some contracts that you're getting with the city and you need that working capital to get things going, right? This is where we come in, where sometimes maybe you might go to your bank and they might not be able to fulfill. This is where we come in the back end and try to fill in that gap. So we do a lot of concentration on minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veterans, and of course, low to moderate income communities, which is some of the areas that Tomas mentioned as well. So thank you for the invite, and I look forward to contribute with more information in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Noe. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Like Tomas mentioned, my name is Andrea Avila. I'm the underwriting associate at Inclusive Action for the city. And what that means is just a fancy way of saying I'm the one that looks over all your financial documents to figure out whether or not how much you qualify for in terms of the loan. Inclusive Action is a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. You might have heard Michelle mention that. What that means is that we get a special designation for the federal government to work in specific low-income communities to do lending to small business owners specifically. We have a couple of loan programs. We have 3 at the moment. Our loans range from $1,000 all the way to $30,000. One of our products has an 8% fixed interest rate. We have a COVID specific fund that's only a 3.5 interest rate. And we have one for startups, maybe some folks that lost the job during the pandemic and had to come up with their own hustle, or they had a hustle before and they turned it into an actual business. That would be folks that will qualify for the new economy loan. So because we are a CDF5 and where we get our funding, we have a little bit more flexibility with folks. So for example, we don't ask anyone to have an I-10 or a social security if they don't have one. If you don't have taxes yet for the business, we can also work around it. So we also don't have a FICO requirement in terms of your credit score. So we're a little bit more flexible in terms of requirements. But again, our loans do cap at $30,000. So I'll look forward to giving you more information as we move forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea. So hopefully what you're hearing is you have some similar products, some overlap, but there are going to be very specific things that will distinguish what a borrower may, where a borrower will have success. With Andrea, like what she was just mentioning, there's certain things that may be industry standards that they're willing to go around or work around to try and get that capital to the borrower, but the amount's going to be limited, right? So I want to ask the panelists, as Michelle, and I'll start with you, Michelle. So what are some of the things that you'd like to see from the borrowers in terms of preparedness for the capital? What makes them in your underwriting ready to borrow from your bank?
Well, we do like to see a FICO score of at least 680 and above, along with a personal credit history that is relatively attractive. And if there is some issues in the credit history, you know, we try to work around it. We look at the income as well. If there isn't business income, if they have personal income, we can look back. We could even go like 3 years past. So if a business didn't do so well throughout the pandemic, we could look at 2019 or 2018 tax returns as well. So that's really what we look for. So if somebody does have, you know, if you know you have really great credit, and when you open an account with us, we do have to see if you qualify. And when we qualify you, it's a soft credit inquiry, so it's not going to hit your FICO score. It won't affect your credit report. And if we see exceptional credit, we'll just instantly offer you a business rewards credit card, and you're getting one without having to apply for it. So if you do have great credit, I encourage you to come in and see if you can get that credit card as well as a business line of credit. And if not, then that's when I refer over to our CDFIs.
So do you require the borrowers to have an account with Wells Fargo? Deposit account?
No, you do not have to have an account.
Okay. Cool. Noah, do you want to talk a little bit about what the borrower qualifications you like or that are required for your lending?
Yeah, so I guess before I start in regards to talking specifics, I think one of the things I want to point out, which it was a great idea that Anna Marie mentioned, this is a process and you guys need to understand it. So when you approach either an institution such as Wells Fargo or any of the lenders like ourselves, you need to really be able to relate our story or the story about your business, right? Because a lot of the times when people come in, they said, oh, I like to apply. And you ask them how much? Oh, the most I could get. As soon as you tell me that, it's a red flag. I can tell you, I'm not going to take you seriously because that tells me that you haven't done your homework, right? So that is a bit one of the advices I like to give right now. Into more specifics of the question, you know, I want to make sure that you're able to relate your story to me, right? What are you trying to accomplish, right? I mean, as far as, you know, credit score, we like a FICO to be 640 and above. But if it's below that, 620 or above, but if it's below that, why is that, right? Tell me the story. Maybe there's something that I might be able to help you with. And then, of course, that also you're up to date with your financials, both business and personal, because a lot of people, they always postpone filing their tax returns, and that doesn't help your case. I mean, sometimes we can help you to start building on your loan package based on that, but we might not be able to do a final decision until you don't file your taxes. So the more that you postpone, the longer this could take you into the process, though. So, you know, so once again, just being able to relate your story, you know, have good or decent credit. Of course, the better the credit, the better your chances you have about getting the loan. And that's really about it. Just having all your documents ready and be able to relate your story.
Excellent. And Noah just, I think, mentioned one of the most important points and things that should be distinguished. The bank's underwriting may not start until your application is complete. So your initial conversation with the lender may happen on August 1st. Your second conversation may happen on September 30th when they've told you what they need to have. But until you get your completed application, they may not start processing. So if you need your money quickly, you want to make sure that you complete the application as soon as possible. And then that's when they'll be able to really underwrite what it is that you're applying for. Andrea, you gave an excellent response to this question in your introduction. Is there anything you want to add with regard to the kind of borrowers that you're looking at, qualifications?
It's very similar to what Noah mentioned. We want to know your story. We don't have a minimum credit score, but we do want to know if there's something in your credit report, what happened. We don't look at any medical or student debt, for example. The other thing is because we are very flexible and you might not have taxes or you might not have a very fancy Intuit or QuickBooks and you're logging stuff on a piece of paper, that's fine. But we also want it to be backed up by your bank account. So one of the main difference with a lender like ourselves is that we look at your business, but we also look at your personal expenses because we want to give you credit, but we don't want to just give you debt for the mere fact of giving you debt. So we look at your business, but we also see at the end of the month, are you going to have enough money after paying your monthly loan to pay your rent, to pay your utilities? So if you send us your bank statement and every month at the end of the month, you have a negative balance or you might have overdraft fees, what's going on? Is it just an issue of depositing money on time? Or is it that you are really tight and a loan might not be a good idea? So that's the other difference, that to consider that we're looking at you as a whole, not just your business, but also your personal finances.
Excellent, thank you. And so this next question is open to the whole panel. Answer as you see fit, Ana Maria as well. Ana Maria, excuse me. Right now, one of the things I'm noticing with a lot of businesses that I talk to is that there are arrears on rent for the space that they're in. How does that fit into your underwriting analysis? Does it disqualify them? Is it something they can work around?
I think for the time being, let me take the first stab at it. Honestly, it doesn't disqualify them because a lot of the times, just based on the fact that they're late on the rent, it's not something that they're gonna report on the credit, right? So therefore, the credit should not really be affected, though. However, we gotta know the story and we gotta understand why they're behind, right? Because I mean, was that it could have been maybe something temporary due to the pandemic, where maybe they took a significant loss and therefore they're not able to have that extra cash flow to pay for the rent, right? So we need to understand. So everything relates to back what we were saying. We need to know the story, right? And a lot of that takes homework. I mean, Ana Maria said it earlier. I mean, it takes homework. You have to be ready to go through this because it is a process. It's not something that you go and be like, oh, just hand me money. No one is just gonna hand you money. I mean, that's just reality, right? And you are gotta be able to relate that. So every time you come in, you just have to be ready to be prepared to be upfront and let the lender know upfront if there are some issues, though, because if you let them know that, they're gonna let you know upfront if they're gonna be able to help you or not, because that's what a lot of people sometimes do. They don't disclose things upfront, thinking like the bank or the institution is they're gonna find out. And guess what? Once we run your credit reports and we find out all these things, we come back and like, oh, what happened to tell me that? Oh, and they don't have a comeback. So after that, having that comeback is going to be very difficult. So it's very important that you disclose this up front so that the lender will know if they're going to be the right fit for you.
I agree. Definitely let us know up front if there's any issues. That way we can let you know if we can work around it or what we will need to move past that issue. I always recommend to clients that to apply. So we have a business line of credit, which if they had it, they could access it to pay rent if they weren't getting the accounts receivables that they were expecting. So I always encourage, apply when you don't need it so that you have this line of credit ready for you, because when you do need it, and as you mentioned, the rent's not going to show up on the credit report, but a late payment to a credit card will. And you don't want to have that affecting your application. So try to apply when you don't need it so you have those emergency funds for a situation like that. And have backup or anything that may have appeared in the past, have it ready to show that it's been taken care of, or if it was a discrepancy. I had a client who wanted a bigger line of credit, but we showed high balances on his credit cards, and he came in and showed me his statements that he pays it off every month. So we were able to give him a higher credit limit. So it's, as I mentioned before, just have everything prepared, everything to show that you're a strong candidate.
Michelle, before we go on, can you tell us again what your minimum FICO score requirement was?
680. I mean, it really depends. I don't want to discourage anybody, but 680 is typically what we look for. And but I'm here to help you, and I have contacts like I work with the CDC. So if there's something that we can't do for you, I'm gonna find a CDFI that can help you.
Great.
I'd like to just respond to that question about rent and arrears, because we are seeing that to be more common these days. And I think it goes back to the story and being able to relay the reason behind any of these items. We can also probably touch on the 5 C's, which are the 5 criteria, the main criteria that lenders look at. And if any of those C's seem like they're not up to par with what the underwriters or lenders look for, be prepared to explain it. When it comes to rents and arrears, I think it's also a question of how honest are you being with yourself? Because right now we're seeing businesses that are facing these issues, and unfortunately, the light of the end of the tunnel is nearly impossible to see. So having an honest conversation with yourself, if you're going to be able to go beyond this, or if it means pausing things for a little bit of time. But the other question to that is, if this is a temporary setback, do you have financial projections that show what the next year is going to look like? And can you justify being able to cover this new loan that you're acquiring? So I think there's 2 ways to look about it: having an honest conversation with yourself, if this is my reality and if I need to pause, or if this is justifiable with other numbers. And then finally, I would kind of think about this in the lens of personal finances. So let's say if you're no longer working and you have this opportunity to take on debt, but the reality is you're not going to have any income to pay that. Would you take on that debt, or do you feel that that may just continue to put you in a more challenging situation? And there's a lot of parallels between business credit and personal credit. So that might be a good kind of lens to examine that question.
Thank you. So I want to encourage participants, if you have questions, post them in the chat. In a few minutes, we'll get to the questions that are listed in the chat. And then I have 3 more questions I want to ask the panelists before we begin that process. One of the things I want to emphasize is that debt is an exchange. You are giving something to get something. It's not just the interest payment, but there's going to be collateral. There may be guarantees. There may be something in the promissory note that says, in exchange for your money, I will give you this, right? And business, they're not grants. And so businesses oftentimes will object to, well, what do you mean I got to do this or this or that? You know, I don't want to do those things. Well, that's what you have to give up to get the money. So can we, Andrea, I'd like to hear from you and then from the rest of the panelists around what are some things you ask your borrowers to give in exchange for the money that you're giving, that in exchange for the money that you're lending them? Collateral requirements, guarantees, that's that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, that depends. Just like you said, it depends on every business. No 2 businesses are alike. But we did have a young entrepreneur who had been helping her parents selling raspados or shaved ice really close to UCLA, and she had been doing it with them for many, many years. She was trying to get a job as a nurse assistant, and she realized that she just wasn't making enough money as a nurse assistant. So she was like, well, I've been doing this for my parents for such a long time. Why don't I just get a truck for myself and take one of the routes that the parents had? But she needed to actually buy the truck. So she had a little bit of money, and she needed the rest of the money to buy the truck, that's where we came in. So because we already had the projections from the dad and the routes from the dad, technically, even though she hadn't started, we already knew how much she was going to make because the dad had been working in that route for a couple of years. So we used that to project out how much she was going to make. And the truck became the collateral. So when she bought the truck, we are in the DMV title as the lien holder. And then once she finished paying the loan to us, she gained full ownership of the truck.
Thank you. No, Michelle, do you want to jump here in regard to these?
I mean, I think everything is going to be depending on the project, right? I mean, in this case, there was already an asset involved in the project. So, I mean, of course, the asset itself is going to back up the loan, right? In most cases, I mean, as far as the personal guarantee, that's going to be asked all the way across, regardless of the institution, because unless you're not a company making 20 million or more, then that's where you're not going to be asked to personally guarantee the loan. But in most cases, the typical collateral that is always going to be asked, which is called the UCC filing, right? is a pledge to the, your business assets towards the loan, right? So in most cases, that is going to be asked. So it just depends on scenario. Is different. I mean, in our case as company, it is not a requirement that you have a collateral in order for us to apply with us. But in some cases, we might require some collateral depending on the project, depending on the industry, the risk involved. The personal credit has to do a lot with that. So be careful, guys, because a lot of time people come to us with like, why are you running my credit if this is a business loan, right? Well, guess what? The business doesn't run by itself. You represent the business, and therefore we have to know the character of the borrower or the owner of the business. Therefore, your business credit is extremely important. So, I mean, all those factors are going to be considered, and therefore we're going to determine if what collateral or what's going to be asked from the borrower.
Excellent.
Definitely, we do look at personal credit. We have to. Especially if you don't have business credit established. And so it's just a matter of, we have to see, your history to determine if you can manage a business credit. With Wells Fargo, right now we're offering unsecured, so there isn't collateral required unless you're purchasing a commercial property, stuff like that. But the line of credit is unsecured. Of course, a business credit card is unsecured. I did want to share, though, that we have a problem many times where business owners don't fully report on their tax returns. If they're not paying themselves personally, or if they're trying to pay less in taxes, so they're reporting lower profit or no income to themselves, that's really going to affect their application. And unfortunately, they're not going to be able to expand like they want to. I always tell them, if you're paying, a lot in taxes, that means you're doing pretty well, you're successful, and that's a good thing, and that's going to help them get the capital they need to grow their business.
You're on mute to us.
Thank you. Excellent point, Michelle. I think one of the great challenges for a lifestyle business that just performs to support the lifestyle of the owner is bringing debt to transition into a growth business. That's one of the things that we find is I do work helping workers buy the business where they operate. And it's one of the great challenges is showing the investors and lenders for the workers as they move into that the business is actually profitable beyond what the taxes showed in the prior years. So that's great food for thought. One more question, and actually two more questions. Does the borrower need to be a citizen to access your debt, either naturalized or born here or have any kind of green card or whatever other paperwork that would allow them to be here?
Yes, for Wells Fargo, a citizen or a permanent resident. Those are requirements.
Yeah, for us as well, very, very similar to the bank. It's going to be either a U.S. citizen or legal U.S. resident as well.
Not for us. If you don't have a social, you can use an ITIN. Or if you don't have an ITIN, it's also okay.
So that's an important question, because sometimes if the lender doesn't check, right, then it's okay. But there are some lenders who will make that a requirement as part of the application. Because of the spectrum of capital available, that if someone's not a citizen doesn't mean that they can't get capital. It just means they may have to go a different route, or they may have to give up different concessions in order to get that capital. Last question. How long from the time of a completed loan application does it often take you, on average, to actually fund the loan?
For Wells Fargo, it's immediate. So if they get approved for a business line of credit, it could take 3 to 5 days to get approved, depending on if they're asking for stipulations, and we have to send that in. But the moment they're approved, they have access to the funds almost immediately. The business credit card takes about 2 weeks. And if we're discussing like over 100,000 in commercial real estate, 2 to 3 months, not to get the funding, but to get the whole process.
With us, turnaround time, depending on the product, I mean, on a good day, if it's a small microloan program, you're probably looking about 2 to 3 weeks. If it's more complex, it could go anywhere from 3 up to 5 weeks. And a lot of this process depends on the borrower too, though, because a lot of times we give them a list of items that is going to be needed. So guess what? If it takes a while to get in, that's how long it's going to drag the process as well. So I mean, we put it back on you guys. So the more prepared that you are for this process, and the more proactive that you can be in this process, the faster your process will be in regards to the overall overview of the time frame.
Yeah, similar to Noe, a lot of it depends on the borrower, the applicant, how fast you submit documents, how responsive you are to questions that you have. Once I think the piece that takes the longest is the pre-technical assistance, meaning all the collection of documents and answering of questions. Once it gets to the underwriting, where it's supposed to be completed with credit and everything, it takes about 2 days to finish, get it underwritten.
All right, so I'm going to go to the questions in the chat. And the first one we have here is, does the eligibility differ for the different type of business? For example, sole proprietorship versus LLC. And that's for any of the panelists.
Just in business documentation for sole proprietorship, if you're using a DBA doing business as, the fictitious name certificate, which I can help you get, because with the county register being closed right now, it has to be mailed in and notarized. So I'm also a notary, so I like to help my business customers with that as well. And when you're a corporation or LLC, you need the business tax returns and personal, as well as the articles. As long as it shows up in the Secretary of State along with an EIN number.
I mean, back to Michelle's point. I mean, it's just really the structure is just gonna help us identify what kind of documents we're gonna ask to proof of your ownership into the business. So they're just gonna be different. But as far as will it delay the process? No, it will be exactly the same. It just be the different documents that we're gonna be asking you for.
Okay. Excellent. Andrea, did you want to add anything?
No, it's the same as both of them.
All right. Another question, and this is for everybody. How do you, as lenders, look at earning potential of the borrower? How does that factor into your decision making?
I could go. That is very important because we actually, in our underwriting, we project out your earning potential. So we look at 2020. So we look at 2 years, the previous year, and we look at the current year, and then project out into the end of the year. So we definitely take that into consideration, and that might mean you telling us where you are located. Maybe you have a niche in the street where you're located, or you already have very specific farmers market if you sell a food that you go to every Thursday, Friday, whenever. So we do look at earning potential. Very important.
In our case, we do consider as well projections. One of the things I'd really like to mention about projections is going to be very important that you understand the numbers that you put in your projections, because a lot of the times people put, I'm going to make $1 million every month. I mean, that's just not going to happen. It's not realistic, right? You need to understand your seasonality of your business. I mean, some months are going to be stronger, some quarters are going to be stronger, and you need to be able to reflect that in there. So it is going to be important that, yeah, we will definitely consider projections, but make sure that you understand the seasonality of your projections.
With Wells Fargo, we don't really look at projections because we want to make sure that we're basing it off your previous history. So with us, it's a little more difficult to account for future projections.
Excellent. Another question, and I know I'm going to direct this towards you because I think you're the one that referenced it. What's the difference between personal credit and business credit?
Well, in a lot of the times, especially if it's a brand new business, of course, there's not going to be, business credit history, right? You kind of really build towards your business credit yourself. So, right. In most cases, a lot of the time you're going to start as a sole prop business, which is fine. So a lot of times I recommend people, hey, get an EIN number for your business, right? So you can start building on that. Now, if they start right away with another entity, LLC, C Corp, S Corp, whatever the case may be, then you're kind of responsible to even build on that. But even to build on that, they're still gonna, to start anything, or the foundation of that business credit is gonna be on your personal credit, because goes back to the character issue that I mentioned earlier, right? They're gonna go based on the owner of the company or the borrower of the company, and they're gonna say, okay, is this person worth lending them that credit card? the line of credit or that business loan. And therefore, once the institution is going to start reporting that to the credit bureaus for your business, and that's how you build business credit. So that's really the difference.
Thank you. Excellent. So 2 more questions here. I forgot which panelist mentioned it, but someone mentioned red flag earlier. So from each of the panelists and Ana Marie, also if you want to chime in, what is the one red flag that you think the borrower should be aware of when they're starting this process? And you can, if someone says the one you're thinking of, then you can move on to your second choice.
I mean, I'll start. I'll think what I said earlier. I mean, the fact when you said, "Oh, give me the most that you can," or "Give me whatever I can," that's a red flag from the get-go, right? Because you're not prepared. I mean, that just tells me like you're just trying to shoot at something and hopefully hits, right? That's just not gonna happen, right? No, do your homework, go through the process, reach out to experts that can provide you that. And then once you do your homework, and even you talk about projections, right? Sometimes when you do the projections, that will help you to determine how much you really need to make things happen, right? To hit that goal, to hit that target. So that's part of that. Another thing that I can tell you that it has become a red flag quite often nowadays, especially with existing businesses, those that are getting PPP assistance or idle assistance. And then on top of that, they want to get money. So then we're going to question why you need that much money. I mean, you got PPP assistance, you got idle assistance. Where's that money? Where's that money at? What have you done with that money, right? So be very prepared. I mean, in some cases, that money is going to be needed, and maybe you maybe want to keep that idle for an emergency, or maybe we have to shut down again. You want to keep that. That's completely understandable. But you need to explain that, and we need to know what have you done with part of that money so far.
I know for me, a red flag would be when a customer says, "Oh, we do a lot of cash, but I don't really report it." As I mentioned, we want to see it on paper, as well as bankruptcies. Typically, if it's within 10 years, that could be a deal breaker. If it's more than 10 years, then we can help, but we definitely want to know upfront if there's a bankruptcy. So those are red flags that I come across. But I also wanted to share in a difference with the business credit and personal credit. We're always looking at the personal credit, but yes, once you start establishing business credit, it's separate. And it's more so to separate your personal debt from business debt. We don't want your business debt affecting your personal debt. So it's mostly counted towards your debt to income ratio. So if you're trying to buy a house, you don't want to just build up debt under your personal name. You want to establish that under the business side. But we do let them know that if they, start making late payments or they default, that's when it appears on the personal credit report. That's when it becomes part of both.
Thank you, Michelle. I would love to keep going with this, but it's 1 o'clock, and I think we should wrap up here. I want to thank Ana Maria, Andrea, Noe, Michelle for your time this afternoon and sharing all this information and knowledge with our attendees and with the other people who will be watching this recording in the future. I think the thing that we want to walk away with is that money may all be green, but it doesn't mean it's the same thing. And know your story, know who you're talking to and what they're expecting from you with regard to when you become their borrower. I also want to mention the applications are closing this Sunday, August 15th. So please, if you know a business, if you want to share this opportunity, more about this program with someone, please share the links that are here. And the one thing I want to stress is that a key component of this is our fellowship program, which means that we'll be embedding a student from Cal State LA with these businesses who can help organize the books, who can help figure out how to tell the story, who may be able to help put together the financial information that the banks are going to need. So our hope is that by participating in this program, we'll increase the access to capital of these businesses and help these BIPOC women advance forward in their financial goals. It looks like Elaine's trying to get my attention and mention that our social media links are here, as well as the links to apply. So please share this with everyone and anyone that you think is appropriate for them. Thank you again for your time. And we look forward to seeing you again at our next event.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.